Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited for this podcast episode today. We have the one, the only TikTok sensation. Introduce yourself, my brother.
Yo, what's up? My name's Theo Shakes. I come from Tamaki Makoto, Central East. You know where we at. And yeah, I'm that TikTok guy now, apparently.
Yo.
That's been a thing. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I study acting. I love creative things. Can't deny that.
Oh, like you said, man, you're known as a TikTok guy because you got like 200 plus thousand followers on TikTok, which is crazy. But like you said, you do all the other stuff, and I want to get to the TikTok thing because that's obviously important.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you get involved in all of this like creative stuff, and what's your niche, bro?
Yeah, so like prior to TikTok, are you talking like
Yeah,
I mean, I started picking up a camera when I was like 12, right? And it was actually a little Samsung thing, and you only could I was editing it while on record because there was a pause button.
Yeah.
So I'd go and then change angles and then keep recording. So that was the way I edited it. And then we made like a half an hour short film, me and my mate, and then that kind of. Once you start doing enough of that, you can kind of prove to your parents, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. Can we invest in a proper camera, a DSLR? Because that was the hype back in the day. So we did that. And then I started writing and making short films and posting on YouTube because I was just such a YouTube kid. And then eventually, it got into high school. I switched schools and I was like, I really want to do some musical theater. I really want to put things through my body. I want to be able to feel things on stage. And express myself that way while also keeping with all the film stuff I did. And then I went to film school, and it wasn't exactly the way I thought it would be, especially for a kid who dreamt of it and the idea of being like the Steven Spielberg or whatever. But it did teach me the fact that I need to be doing acting. I need to be doing this thing where you can express your voice, you can express your body a bit more. So applied for Toi Whakaari, the one and only acting school up here in Porneki, or down there in Porneki. And yeah, got in and loved it and still love it and still doing it. So yeah, I guess the creative stuff has always been there for a long time. And it's that thing people describe, the 10,000 hours thing. I mean, I haven't added it up, but it would be a lot now.
Sure.
All that time you spend when you edit little YouTube clips, or in quarantine last year, I made a whole quarantine comedy bites, just little minute clips. So much time goes into editing, especially when you're trying to make your own films. And I think that racked up a ton of hours doing it, thinking the ideas, being with my mates. And there does become a point where you're like, oh, okay, you can't always do it with your mates because they're not actual actors or they don't actually know how to hold a camera. So then you start finding the next level up and it's great and it's even better and it's fun, but you can still bring your friends along the way. So yeah.
Yeah, man. That's crazy. And it's always quite nice. Some people, for myself, I got into it quite a bit later. I didn't know I was always into the music thing. I did so much other stuff. Then I always have kind of 10 million things going on at once.
Yeah.
So it's always quite nice how you already knew that you were into the creative thing and how that developed into making something a little more physical into the acting side. Do you do many productions down in? So how does that work with down at Toi Whakaari? I've known a couple of people that have gone down, but don't know the specifics of.
Productions as in plays.
Yeah, plays, music theater stuff.
Yeah, so I guess the school, it kind of keeps in on the course. So, I mean, there's a toy festival sort of thing actually, where you can make your own short film or your own play, and that can all be done at this festival that we do at the school. It's called the Forward Festival, which stands for Festival of Work in Development. So it's nothing that's finalized, but there are a lot of opportunities for productions and stuff, but it's not as classic or traditional as your normal drama schools. So there's this thing called the conservatoire model, which a lot of drama schools are still kind of under, but it's changing now, which is a more Eurocentric kind of American way of teaching, where the classic will strip you down and build you back up, and that still gets said all the time. People still think, oh, is that what you do? They just pull apart, and no, toy is more build you up. bring the things you have from your past. And because we are looking at it from a very Pacific perspective now, keeping in Māori and Samoan values, that's some big things we do at the school. It kind of teaches us a new way of learning through acting.
So offering that different perspective kind of thing?
Yeah. So for example, a play that we did last year, Antigone, which is like a really old school Greek play, we kind of used Siva Samoa, which is like movement or Maurako movement from Māori and put that through the work so that we could twist it up. And that we've got like brown people in the class, like that's a thing that the school had to kind of realize. Okay, if you've got a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of people of color now, you can't just ignore that, and they bring so much. And so it is that thing of bringing your past and bringing that all forward, not trying to strip away this person to make them the ideal. But
that's actually something that I've come into terms with very recently, and I'm like a little bit older than you, and it's quite cool. Like, I guess your generation coming up now, it's something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
But when I was kind of coming up, it's not that it wasn't celebrated. I just never really thought about it. I never really appreciated my culture, and so it only became like a thing for me now where I'm thinking like, wow, I'm an Indian guy doing music, and there's not many of us, and that's cool, and I should be a person to support more Indian people coming into this. Like, now it's important for me. So how has that been for you and your culture and your coming?
Yeah, well, it's like a whole nother story for me because I'm one of those mixed kids with a whole bunch of shit. And so
that comes with its own specific story.
Yeah. And people are starting to unravel that now, which I find interesting. So it kind of makes me sit back because I had so many ideas of, let's tell the you're too white for the black kids, too black for the white kids kind of story.
Yeah.
Like a lot of scripts I was wanting to do that, but then I'm like, oh no, the world's starting to pick up on it. I'll watch that happen. But I'm trying to figure it out because it is a thing of, we're one of those families that just move across seas and we keep doing it. So my grandparents are Jamaican, but I'm mixed. So we got the white side over here, and I was born in the UK, and then we come all the way to Aotearoa. So it's like, where do you fit? Like the odds you're going to find another little black kid who's also mixed, who it's just not. So there isn't quite a community, but the closest thing you get is maybe the Jamaican, Caribbean, Afro-Caribbean community in New Zealand.
Is there a big Afro-Caribbean community?
It's small. It is small. And I'll be honest, like we found someone right at the beginning, and we had a lot of events like that. And whenever the West Indian team came over, you'd get little things like that. But from a kid perspective, I was trying to assimilate into this world. So I no cares, no thoughts.
Yeah.
It was a thing of like, I do want to see other black kids, but the idea of actually knowing any of this Caribbean stuff or this Afro-Caribbean stuff, I was like, nah, I don't really know. And so like going into schools and trying to find a cultural place to stand is tricky. But since going to Toi, I've realized how, like, at least for myself, how cool it is to be surrounded by more brown people. Nothing wrong with white people, love them. But yeah, it's just
There's something comfortable about something that I'm yet to experience. Like, I probably won't experience, and that's my own kind of journey. But it is quite nice to have, I'm sure, people that grow up in like a similar culture to yourself. And I guess it's not really necessarily like a color thing, but it's just kind of like there's a cultural thing that you both can recognize, and that's quite comforting.
For sure. And I think like a place like Toi has been brilliant for that, because you don't want to be like appropriating anyone's cultures and that, but you do want to be able to like understand it and appreciate it. Yeah. And so, one day maybe I'll go back to England and like live there or something and find maybe my people. But that was a thing I started to realize, and I'm like, so where is home and where are my people? And really, it was Auckland. It was like where I was growing up. I was always trying to search for the other black kid, and I'm like, you know what? I had some great friends. I had a really good friend group. So you just think sometimes you have to search for it, but it was always there. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do I phrase this? Like, I can only speak for myself, and I've always found that, there are not a lot of Indian people that do what we do, actually, in the not only the creative space, but the performing arts space, you know? And so we end up being kind of like flag bearers for that. Yeah. And even though there are not a lot of people that look like us, we have to appreciate the friendships that we do make with, you know, the people that we have, but also make sure that we make this space available for the ones coming up, and show that you can be successful in different ways, and it's actually a great space to be in.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
That does.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, it's giving me chills, because it's like, I remember I just edited this little clip, little small thing for this woman. She's a black woman in New Zealand, and at least growing up, I never saw many, but we were close with her, and so it was amazing to be able to help her out on this little clip. But just me being me, I edit a lot of stuff, so I was just like, it means nothing. And then she really sat with me for an hour trying to, you know, pick out titles, and we were cutting it. And then she said, holy, you know, I just want you to know how big this is and what you're doing for us. And then she started tearing up, and I didn't realize, like that flag bearer thing, you know, like we are this first generation to her. It is insane to see someone, even, you know, like 20 years ago, you know, it's insane to see a kid now, you know, pick up the camera and be able to like express art and do all this incredible stuff in the midst of all the mess in the world as well. And I think you get reminded by that with that older generation. And I go by that quote of like, I am my ancestors' wildest dream, and I heard that one like a couple years ago.
Whoa,
that's insane. And that one just kind of tells me, you know, it's not a cocky thing. It's not but my ancestors would have been like annoyed at that. You get this much privilege. No, they'd be fucking proud, and they'd be like, yo, this is incredible. And you walking down the street, doing something fun, having fun with whatever it is, even if, you know, it's just ordinary things, but you are that dream, and I live by that and soak that in and enjoy. Well,
like, I guess for us, you know, 100 years down the line, we want our kids to make sure that their life is as kind of fruitful as ours. And I've, what are your thoughts about that? Because obviously this business, I guess, is so full of ups and downs and a lot of downs and some ups, and the ups are really great and the downs can be really bad. Yeah. But yeah, what's your kind of philosophy on taking the good with the bad and the bad with the good in terms of, you know, acting and that kind of thing?
Well, I'll at least speak from where I am right now, which is, you know, second year of acting school, and prior to that going to film school, and prior to that high school. So I really haven't stepped out of like a teaching institute or an institution.
Yeah.
And that's actually where it gets really like the real ups and downs. Whereas I treat the ups and downs that happen at school like, well, we're in a learning environment, and I kind of just, you know, I know the stakes are somewhat high, but really they're not yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't fully like felt a little, you know, like financial ups and downs. You know, I'm kind of like, well, fuck it.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But in terms of the actual making of the art, yeah, for sure, there's like ups and downs. It's like, do I really want to be doing this? Like, or I have that. I mean, I kind of knew from like year 9, so that's what, like 13. I kind of knew, okay, I'm gonna be like a director, or I'm gonna do that route. But then every now and then I'll kind of think and go, whoa, I'm actually doing it. Yikes! Like, that's pretty intense. I'm gonna be a guy just like holding a camera up, or like being a character for a living, which is incredible. Like we kind of joke about that at acting school when we're doing something so stupid like musical fuck, which stands for it's a game which you musical chairs, but you're all pretending to be 5-year-olds at a disco, and there's a chair being taken away each round, and we're doing the stupidest things. And I'm like, hang on, we could get paid for this in a couple of years in a film, you know? And I'm like, this is incredible. But at the same time, it's daunting. And then I kind of go, all right, well, if I'm finding it at all nerve-wracking, or that creative block or writer's block, whatever it is, I do remind myself, like, what else can I be doing? I really know I couldn't really be doing anything else. Or if I was doing something else, I'd be sitting there thinking about creative things in that place, and like almost wanting to itch out of it. Yeah. Because I know now, I think I've built just such a muscle in my head that works in story form. When I'm chatting with people, it's story form, or it's this kind of play. It's I don't know. So it wouldn't.
I think there are some people that it naturally comes to them. Like even the way you're speaking now, there's like a sense of narrative, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have that because my brain kind of goes, oh, there's a thought here, there's a thought here. Okay, cool, but there's another thought there, and I'm trying to like bring all these all together. But that's super cool, man. Yeah. That's really, really great. Oh God, I was going to ask you something and I've forgotten.
That's right. I've got you a question. Like,
yeah, okay, go.
Does your mind work in linear, or do you look at storytelling in linear? Because I do. And then when I got to Toi and spoke to a lot of Māori people, they don't always work linear. They work in a spiral structure. And
How do you mean by that?
So like there's this film called Cousins. It's a New Zealand film that came out last year. And it's like kind of told in a spiral sense where you can kind of shoot through the middle, but you'll keep going back and forth in the life of, if you're telling so you're kind of bouncing between, Or Christopher Nolan's another great example. He just, jumps all about and plays with time completely. But I guess my mind still is quite rigid in the classic.
Memento,
yeah.
Yeah, it took me about 2 watches to realize what was going on.
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, Or Inception, which I've watched it's my favorite, like really one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
And I watch it like 20 times and it's still doing things and you're going, wait, what?
I guess for me, that's a really crazy question. I think I really think about things that have happened to me in the past and kind of live through them as much as I can to make sure that they don't happen again, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, I think it's kind of linear because I guess I'm like going back to move forward, but I'm always kind of back and forth. So I like to think of it as like there are moments. There are really special moments, and there can be some of these really special moments can be really, really big for you or really, really small, and that kind of depends on the person, I guess.
Yeah.
Like even just spending. I remember we were at New Zealand Ari, which was a competition, a singing competition, and I was in the under 21 class at this stage. And so it was fine. We kind of sang in the first couple of days. It was cool. Then the older singers, we had a wee Airbnb that we got together.
Mm-hmm.
They competed for the finals. None of them got in. All good. The next day, the day of the finals, we spent the entire day. We got like a few beers and we went to the lake. We went luging and all this stuff. And like that's a really special moment that I just won't ever forget. And like that's what like I always go back to in terms of like my life, I guess. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the same thing with things that make me sad as well. If it was a breakup or like a fight that I had with a friend or something like that, then I always go back to these things to like reference points, I guess. I don't know if that's answered your question or not.
No, yeah, that's interesting. And I feel like those defining moments or points are kind of attached to things or nostalgic things, which are easy to tap into because of a song or something, and you can jump right back to that memory or whatever it is or that time, because it's like I think so that trip you're talking about, there would have been a bigger aim to the trip, go and sing in the competition.
Yeah, exactly.
But then actually, and I think that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah,
it's the community behind things, or it's those little.
It's the little moments that you look back and it's like, actually, that was the cool bit. Like as fun as the you go and sing in the competition, that's the macro, but. And this last podcast I did yesterday, we talked so much about the macro and the importance of that. But you have to also appreciate the micro because that's what gets you there, I guess. Look, I want to ask you this question. It's kind of a long-winded question, but
go for it. Yeah,
I've always been a proponent in my head that there are really great ways to tell stories. Like obviously, I do like a lot of opera stuff and singing stuff, and for me, that's like my art form, that's my craft, and I want to get really good at telling those stories. But I also know there are some stories that are really great in terms of like being a novel or a TikTok or a screenplay or just like a one-person show. So how do you determine for yourself what is the best way to tell your story, whether it's you as the actor, or you as the writer, you as the filmmaker? How do you determine that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's a great question. It's kind of like I'm bouncing about from medium to medium, But it's not like I have an idea and then go, how do I fit it into which one? I think it just knows which one to go into straight away.
Yeah.
Or I'll be thinking in that area. So the TikToks come to me like throughout the day. That's kind of what I do in the day now. Whereas if I want to be working on a feature script, full-length script, I kind of drop into that at a certain point. I'll choose to sit down, and that doesn't really come to me during the day. So I don't know, maybe they're in little pockets or in little areas, and I don't quite know where they are, but they don't. I'm never going, how do I do that? But I feel it like, so I was lying in bed one night and I was listening to some nostalgic kind of sleepy music, and it took me back to those memories where you're a kid and you've got a neighbor who are also your age, and so this was a true story, but I had these friends and they were my neighbors and they were our age, and we'd always go to their house every night to play on the trampoline, and then we'd run home, but the street lights would come on, and that was kind of your signal, go home, it's dark, parents' dinner. But there was such a feeling like when the sun had set and it was dark and it was a cold blue, but you're bouncing on this trampoline, having the fucking best time of your life, and there's no worries in the world. And that fueled me up, and I was like, oh, this is such a nice story. That's a short film right there. That cannot be a feature. It's not a TikTok a memory unlock. It doesn't fit in that for me. So I was like, that's a short film. You just watch these kids come out, play on the trampoline, and then go. And maybe a scenario or a situation happens or a problem arises in that moment. But that's kind of, I don't know. So it kind of just...
It's like one of those ones where it seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you can recognize when art imitates life and vice versa. And I don't have that in terms of like creating music. I did like a bunch of composition before, but I don't really do that. I look for that in the music that I sing.
Right.
So I'll take like massive life experiences and kind of weave them into, like finagle them into like whatever piece I'm singing.
Yeah.
So how does that work for you in terms of, these life experiences? And do you let's talk about your TikTok. It's like a prime example.
Yeah.
The man who's lived every life.
Yeah.
So tell us about a bit about that, like how much of your life experience goes into the TikToks that you make. Because as funny as they are and as lighthearted as they are, there's a level of genius to it, and I think everyone knows it. Right. Yeah. Because it's so relatable, and it's so accurate as well. Yeah. And anyone can kind of. Everyone knows that these things have happened to everyone, of course, but nobody thinks of. Nobody thinks of doing that.
Yeah,
you know what I
sure.
mean? So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah. I've already got a few thoughts. Now I'm doing your thing. How do I? But one is August Wilson, who's this great playwright, and he wrote a play called Fences. That's probably what a lot of people will know it as because it's the movie, but he describes it as a writer of, sitting in a cafe and listening to people's conversations. And that's a great way to be able to write and be creative. And when I was at a restaurant the other day with my parents, I could hear this whole Filipino family right there talking about their whole experience of the Philippines. And they were saying, oh, you get stomach ache when you go there. And they were like, and I was hearing that while we were having our dinner. And then a kid behind me was saying, Mom, that's the guy from TikTok. He's on my For You. And I'm kind of...
Crazy.
And this is and I'm
Man's famous.
Yeah. And I'm kind of absorbing these conversations in a restaurant. And I was thinking about that in the sense of that August Wilson guy. And really, it's just all existing there. So it's the same thing with the TikToks. I am just pulling from what I hear every day. And it is a thing of... yeah, I've lived every life, but I haven't been a dad yet, so that's not the case. But really, it is my dad, And So if you met him, or people have met him and seen these TikToks and gone, hang on a minute, I recognize this fella, and they've referenced the TikTok. But I only make these TikToks since I started these, impressions and POVs. Each one of them is an experience I have been in or seen. Otherwise, I don't do it.
Yeah.
So if someone tells me, oh, I saw this little thing that happens at Briscoe's, I didn't work at Briscoe's and I didn't see that, so I'm not going to do it. But you could be right. The world could know. But I'm so much better, at least for this little medium here, so much better at seeing exactly the way I saw it, or because it's happened multiple times. That kind of
like
essence.
empathize or sympathize with like a little bit more, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just easier to tap into because I know exactly what I saw. I'm like, oh yeah, the manager definitely looked like that, or he definitely had this. You can Google these things, but I think when you see them for real, which it never ends up on Google, the really niche little things, then you'll take it and the world will completely understand it. If it's a manager who has the chain, like a restaurant owner, who has the chain, everyone's seen that, but you can't Google. If you Google restaurant manager, it doesn't come up with the chain. It'll come up with, a guy in a nice suit maybe. But that's like so I think, we don't realize how like specific the world looks until we like zone in on it and take it. But yeah, man, it's just really been a thing of like, each day, they just come now. It's like a muscle that has grown, and I'll just be sitting there like, so I just released one yesterday, but I came up with it about a week ago. We were just in the car, me and my mate, and I have the bad aux cord in the car, and I'm like,
oh yeah, so that has a good one.
And I was just like, you know what? This is a TikTok. Fuck it. Yeah. Like it is. Because everyone hates that experience. It makes me laugh. So I kind of think about it a lot. Sometimes I never come up with the idea, but I just got my hair cut today and I was sitting there and I'm like, oh yeah, I know there's probably like a few more barber things I could touch on. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm like, as I'm sitting there just getting my hair cut, I'm like, is anything going to come right now? Is it? So I don't know. But it's dangerous too. Have you ever seen Tick, Tick, Boom?
Yeah, I love that movie.
It's great.
Yeah, I've watched it like a bunch of times.
Great.
Yeah.
You're a big musical theatre fan yourself?
Yeah, a little bit. Like not. I've got friends that are legit big music theatre. Okay. I know, like I can get around.
Yeah. But there's a great scene in that where Andrew Garfield's character like goes to hug the girlfriend and they've been in a fight, and then he just taps on her shoulders and he's still writing. And I'm a bit afraid of that myself. I do not want to be that guy where everywhere I go, But it is like that with the TikToks. They do come out. So I guess I just don't always need to make a scene of it. But it's starting to be a thing. Like it can live inside you. You don't have to sit there for an hour each night and go, how do I come up with it? Or, it's just always on.
I don't want to put myself on your level because I think you are a legit genius.
Yo.
But chill out.
The G word.
I think you are. Like there's a certain level of genius to what you do, and of course there's hard work that comes with it. There's a level of ease at which you are able to view situations and then empathize with them and then put them out, which I'll come back to in a sec. But with the Andrew Garfield and how he never switches off. Like I think people that are so deep in the kind of hole of creativity, they can't switch off. Like even me, like throughout high school. Bro, your sister will tell you. I was always singing.
Right.
I annoyed everyone.
I think I remember you singing, actually.
All the time. It would annoy everyone. I didn't
know you sang, so I would have...
Yeah. It annoyed everyone in class.
Okay.
And I was like, my brain was just thinking about it all the time. And like sometimes I'll be like, just in bed or whatever, like resting. And then all of a sudden I'll be thinking about, oh, what if I do this phrase this way? Then I have to get up and go to my piano. Otherwise, it won't get out of my head.
Wow.
So it's the kind of thing. And it just happens naturally. I don't force it to happen. So I guess it's the same kind of thing with you and the TikToks. You just got to let it flow. And it's a creative expression when you finally do it. Or even put it in the drafts and it doesn't end up getting published. At least you've gotten it out. Out, you know what I mean?
But it's strange you making me think that with the TikToks and having that on your mind all day and it being kind of a creative thing, it's not fictional. What I'm making is kind of, I mean, it is fictional, but it's like real life stuff. It's not a fictional story or world. And maybe that's the difference between like the Andrew Garfield scene where it's like he's trying to make a little world, which is obviously has truth and everything in it, but maybe that's when it gets detrimental.
Yeah. Just trying to...
Because when I was writing my short films back in the day, that's when I thought I have to take from the world, and then maybe that's when it gets dangerous. But it is that thing of you have to live a bit of life to make the art. So, and that's what's really weird about the TikToks is you really have to live the life to create these kind of POVs. So maybe you are doing exactly the right thing if you're thinking about it. You're just considering it for a second longer, but you're just maybe making a note of it. But you're living the life because I need to see how the McDonald's manager serves me. to remember the idea, but
I guess you
just being served.
I guess you don't want to go to the point where you end up doing something for the TikTok, as in I have to go to McDonald's because the people demand the McDonald's manager TikTok. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I shouldn't be going to play. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Live your life, and that's when it becomes like natural, I guess. This is another thing I want to touch on. Like, obviously, I said that what you're doing with the TikToks takes so much empathy, but of course, like we've been talking about earlier, you're so much more than that. You're actor, filmmaker, and all that stuff. And with acting comes with roles that aren't necessarily as lighthearted, and perhaps roles that you can't identify with or you haven't experienced. So it becomes a game, I guess, of kind of empathy versus disassociation. And how do you manage that? Like, have you played roles where you're just, I think this character is a terrible person. I think what do you like? I don't like this person. Does all this person, or not even you don't like them, so this person's just not me. And how do you manage to kind of make the balance between the two?
Well, outside of the TikTok, if we're talking outside of the TikTok, I think those characters that I've played have been either really close to me or they're always black as well. So like, and like, you know, we can toss up if that's a good thing or a bad thing or not, but it did mean like in the musicals I was playing the black guy in whatever the show was, and so I kind of always resonated with their world a little bit anyway, but really only in recent years have I really understood character and how deep you can go so that it could affect you. And I, you know, when there's a character that's not close to you and it's kind of daunting or scary because they're like, oh, these are things I wouldn't do, or this is uncomfortable. There are like these methods we use to shake them out. But, you know, yeah, I guess I've just had a plethora of characters that are pretty close to me, and you kind of are looking for that sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always. But at least for school, we haven't like gone into some extreme characters or characters that have big enough arcs to see. But on the TikTok,
so in high school, sorry,
go for it.
So in high school, did you do like what's the Shakespeare Festival?
No,
Sheila won. Never did it.
No, we didn't do Shakespeare. And Toy, they kind of dropped Shakespeare. So they only in recent years they kind of had that sit down.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, well I don't quote me fully on this, but they did speak on it a little bit this year. But they said we had to just look at it and think, is this what our students need? Is this what our students will enjoy? No one's doubting that Shakespeare's a genius. Like, and I really haven't done. I might have done a bit of Shakespeare work, but I really haven't done enough. And I am curious to see how genius it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is that thing, especially for brown folk. It's like, well, brown people or whatever. It's like, yeah, I don't really get this, or I don't really see myself in this at all.
Yeah.
So we'll have to reinvent it, and you can do that. It's like that Greek play we did last year, Antigone. We kind of put a Siva Samoa or a Māori twist on it, respectfully. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a meaty piece of work, and like I think really at the moment, who do you play for? Who are you allowed to play for? That's such a question that comes up at acting schools at the moment, because you're looking at the industry and even they're going, how much of this old school shit do we need, and how much of it is important, and what is worth trying to move forward with, and what's I think especially for roles that are outside of me, like let's say there's a big discussion on trans role or gay or straight roles. And people are still trying to figure that one out, or ethnic or accent ones. The pendulum might have to swing really far. This is what my drama teacher said. Shout out Heather Timms. She said it might have to swing really far where we just don't allow you to do, you have to just play exactly who you are and your upbringing. And, because like me to play a British guy could be controversial because it's like, well, you didn't grow up in the ends. You don't really know what it's like. But how far are we going to go? So it might have to swing really far left, and then society will realize, no, acting, the point of acting was to play out something outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Or the point of writing is to write something of another experience as well, and really, really respectfully do the research and everything. But So we might swing back into the middle and then kind of understand. But there's this funny line. There really is this funny line of what roles we're allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you get it with opera as well. You know, there's a famous opera called Porgy and Bess.
Okay.
And the composer Gershwin specifically stated that he only intends for African American singers to or black singers to play these roles and sing these roles. And so that's like quite difficult now, because when people take those arias, like Summertime, for example, a really famous song, out of the context of the opera, is it still okay for them to sing, even though it's like they're singing it for a competition?
What's the song? Like
Summertime? And
really?
Yeah, that's from Porgy and Bess.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, because
yeah,
that's got me thinking about some stuff.
So
yeah, right.
Yeah, so
because it has been taken, like people were singing it.
People sing it all the time. It's been made into jazz standards and all this stuff, which is like totally cool. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. If you treat I've always been the thing. I was like, if you treat the art respectfully, then I guess it's okay. But when it comes to the opera,
yeah,
then the context completely changes because the composer stated this. But where it becomes, like you said, you know, should I only play the roles that I've grown up in? Well, like there's probably one opera where it's kind of based in India, and it's not even based in India, it's based in Sri Lanka.
Right.
So Pearlfishers. I was like, well, what am I gonna there's no operas based in Suva. You know what I mean? So it's kinda hard, and there's one role that I've always wanted to play. People listening will know, like Candide.
Okay.
Leonard Bernstein, who wrote West Side Story, of course, and I wrote this opera Candide, and the lead role is a tenor role, and bro, the music's amazing. Like if I was to play one role before I die, like that's one, and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of set in like this like Nazi-esque version of like white, like Aryan white kind of thing. Like that's the zeitgeist. I wish I guess it's kind of set in, and you know, I told my friend, I was like, I just want to be Candide. I was like, oh, are you going to be able to do that? Because nobody Brown's ever played Candide before. And so I'm just like, yeah, why not? It's like I guess you can. It's not really that deep, but it's really different. You have to take it case by case, I guess.
Yeah. I think when you've got someone like yourself who dreams of playing it and who will put their heart and soul into it if the day came, it is a question of like, is it just a great character and the race thing doesn't matter? Like, and it's a case by case basis, or the context and everything as well. But that's something you think about. Or can they be morphed into, you know, you're seeing different versions of Shakespeare now, or you're seeing different versions of.
Do you have any kind of like dream acting roles?
Well, yeah, like when I hit lockdown last year, I really started thinking about who I am and who I could play to be, and I was like, Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Really? You know, I am Jamaican, so I do tick that box.
Yeah.
But also, like, I just listen to, like, his story is incredible, and he's mixed race himself, and I didn't know.
Is he? I didn't even know that.
And do you know how old he was when he died?
Not very old.
Okay, because I thought he was like 60 something.
No.
He's 36. He was
What?
36. Yeah, died of cancer. Pretty sure it was foot thing.
Whoa! I honestly didn't even know that.
Yeah, and just hearing some of his stories and the things he's done and the way he lived his life and his music, of course, is like incredible. And I'm like, if there was a biopic of that, I'd love to audition for it.
Yeah.
But I can't play the guitar, which sucks.
Oh, that's fine.
So I'd need to figure that out. But that's a role I'm like,
sure Andrew Garfield couldn't play piano.
Yeah, I know. He couldn't sing either, and he got taught all of that.
Oh, hey, man.
Well, he could sing.
Good
He
voice,
could sing, though.
Yeah,
Like, you know, it's one of
voice.
those things that just needed to be liberated. But fun fact about Bob Marley, when he died, they found 19 species of lice in his dreadlocks.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy, man.
That's some
Life
stuff.
upon life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's a legit legend, man. And you know what's weird? Like, just these, like, it's so weird to say old music legends, but the kids coming up now don't know these like such influential musicians.
Mate.
I watched these I watched this TikTok of this woman showing, I guess it was like her young friend, like a baby sister or whatever, a photo of Michael Jackson. It's like, who is this person? And this is, I couldn't even name, like, Michael Jackson, like the...
How old were they?
I guess like the 13 or 14.
Same
15
thing
or
happened
something.
when I shot a short film 2 years ago, and I casted a bunch of kids. I was like, oh, you're doing the mirror scene and just be like Michael Jackson. And they're like, who? I'm like, you're 12. You should know whom. Why do you not? I mean, maybe you don't, but like, really? Are we at that point?
Like I'm at a, like it's hard for me to think of music without Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. Oh, so much, eh? You hear his touch in these
It's
people
everything,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's strange.
I was talking to a friend about young kids and particularly like stories we tell them now, and I think your generation, which I guess is similar. How old are you?
20.
20. So you only so our kind of generation. We are the last ones to be told fairy tales. Like if you ask somebody who's like 8 years old, 9 years old,
Right.
and get them to tell you the story of Cinderella or Snow White or Rumpelstiltskin, for example, they will only be able to tell you what has been shown in movies and not the actual tale. Or even then, like with Snow White, they wouldn't have even seen that.
So is that because there's movies now being made for it?
No, I think it's just because like the stories aren't being told, or
because they're on a
there's so
tablet
many
instead.
other stuff like their fairy tales are frozen.
Oh, I get
You know
what you're
what I
saying.
mean? Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Is that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, is like sad, because these are like this is like how we grew up. You know what I mean? But I'm sure there was, but it's also how our parents grew up. Like they knew these stories, and they're important stories. Like problematic as there are definitely some problematic things with them. But
yeah, but you never think of them that deep.
Yeah,
You
of
don't know
course.
it. I think that's up
It's
to.
just changing completely.
I feel like that may be a thing about, them having these tablets and technology at younger ages, so they find that more interesting, or what the parent chooses to tell as well, because like I'd say, Dad, tell me a story, and he'd really milk it in the weirdest way. But that's because he's also a storytelling kind of guy. But I will tell my kids cool stories or make them up.
Yeah.
I don't know,
absolutely.
but maybe that won't be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like I was going to ask something, I've forgotten it again. Damn. Yeah, like I guess it's kind of weird for the kids now because everything. I was talking to my mum, we were kind of having a bit of a row, and I was like, I think you have to realize that the way that you and my grandmother grew up is quite similar, but how your generation and my generation have grown up is completely different. Like, everything we do is more efficient. We have information at our fingertips whenever we want it, and we have the ability to get this information. If you want to look up something up on your phone, 9 times out of 10, you're asking me for help. You know what I mean? But for us, we just kind of do it. We've grown up with it. So what are your kind of thoughts on that, and like especially with the younger generation, like maybe that you see coming into toy, or do you have any experience working in high schools or experience in that younger generation in drama, like NCA drama kind of thing?
Working with them as an older person?
Yeah.
No, and I want to. That's something I want to do. I really want to go back to Selwyn College. Shout out Selwyn College, and just like meet my drama teacher again. Shout out Duncan, and just see what it's like. But no, I haven't done that. But I guess maybe it was when I did a short film 2 years ago with some kids, and I started to be surrounded by kids again a bit, because you're growing up as an immigrant kind of thing. You don't have any cousins here, so you miss actually a lot of that. So anyway, I kind of saw the thing of like their world, and they'd be on phones so much in between takes, and it's not even like, Dad, can I borrow your phone? It's like they got one. They're playing Roblox. They're playing whatever the game is. They're addicted to Fortnite. They're addicted to these things. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't really seen too much of it, so I'm not sure how it plays into like creative spaces yet. But I did a thing like with me and my mates. We just walked through my primary school last week.
It's so tiny, eh?
It's so tiny.
Everything's-
It's so tiny, and you're trying to map out. But I swear it was fast.
Yeah. The water fountain was definitely bigger than this. I remember it being.
And we talked about how you got the button one and then you got that stick one.
Yeah.
And the stick one's so annoying, but the button one was great. But like walking past those classrooms and just peeking in them, and there's just like computers and just like really neat computers and great technology. It's changed, and I do not know what a primary school class is like now. It's probably a whole new way of teaching. I'm not aware.
It's so weird to think back to. It just seems so archaic. Like, it's definitely developed a lot, which I guess is like, for the better. There are some things worse for it, but no doubt in my mind that kids growing up now are super intelligent. We have like a couple family friends of ours, their kid, genius, man. He just knows everything about everything, and I think that's only, he wouldn't know that stuff if he wasn't so curious on his phone all the time.
Yeah. See, and there are those benefits.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, I think it's general knowledge will be bigger. Like if you were a kid on TikTok, you actually do get to see into like 100 worlds in maybe 10 minutes potentially. Like could be that quick, and that's something that still blows my mind on that app. I'm like, oh yep, now I'm in the living room of this house in this country. But that will tell you something like, oh yeah, they only drive this way, or yeah, they always wear dresses like that. You're just subconsciously absorbing it. So that must be the case for these kids. And as I went through high school, that was kind of the thing. If you come back and have conversations, because I was hearing on a Joe Rogan podcast, so that we started to get a lot of our information,
exactly,
a lot of it, just Googling things. And then now we're also at an age, at least I'm talking about my generation now, people my age. We start to talk, but we forget we have phones sometimes, and we talk about these things. And we're like, yeah, how does the most ordinary thing work? Oh, we can Google it. Like, it's so silly. And then we'll actually find it out. So there's a bit of a proactiveness of like, but there's a discussion too, I think. Because at least how I've treated my friendships and the ones that are really great, it's like we do put our phones down. So that's actually not the idea to try and search it, but then we can. And so then we do.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're just like, I actually don't need my phone right now, and you just kind of put it on your... I remember I was with New Zealand Youth Choir, and on our tour, we were on a cruise ship touring the Pacific, which was really cool because we sang a bunch of Pacifica music. It was a great experience, 10 out of 10. And like on one of the first days, we were already out at sea, like zero reception. And I had like my wallet on my bed and my phone on my bed, and immediately I go and grab my phone and my wallet, and then I grab my phone and my wallet and then put my wallet in my pocket, and I'm like, go to put my phone in my wallet, and I was like, wait, hold on, I don't even need this. So I throw it back on my bed. But it's just so weird. We're always reaching for it was like such a relief to just put it away for a bit. And as much as I want to delete the social media and stuff, I just can't. There's too much stuff going on, and I just need to be in the know.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to be in, I guess if you want to be in the creative industry, you can't,
absolutely.
There's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a fast game. But, like you saying that, since I've had the TikTok thing, which is not even a year yet, but I've been always doing that at least once a day, keeping up with it, checking, so I don't miss something. Yeah.
Do you find it exhausting sometimes?
No. So I liked going through the comments. Not they can say it's detrimental, but actually there's not really much hate mail, so I actually don't mind that.
Yeah, cool.
And I like seeing people connect to the work I've made. I think that's something I dreamt of as a kid trying to make YouTube. Like, could anyone see this? And now they're seeing it and they're creating their own riffs off it and jokes off it. So I'm just so curious anyway. But like, I if you don't keep up with it, you'll miss it. But I guess sometimes if a really big video blows up, they come in too fast, and so I come the arse. So if I was to try and shove that in my day, that would be ridiculous. And just generally, like, the more you read that, the more you're longing for it. So you got to be careful too. Like, don't get sucked into the numbers too much. Don't get sucked into all of the likes. What?
Do you feel like there are moments where you just like, oh, this video might not have as many likes as I would like? Or,
You can't not deny that. I really, Yeah.
It takes a really.
I think I've made enough that I could be satisfied and not give a fuck, but I'm also like, oh, I could make another one and double it. Like, so you do have that thought. And I don't, you don't want to think about that as the end all be all numbers and that, but it is a nice motivator to connect with more people. That's the cool thing about it.
It's a hard thing I find with numbers in like an art form that's like ours is you end up, whenever you bring objectivity into a subjective space, it's always difficult. And like, views are one thing, but then likes are another thing, and then the ratio between how many people like it and how many people dislike it, that's where it becomes hard, because there's a number there of, let's say, 1,000 people don't like it and 1,000 people do like it. But the reasons why is so subjective. So like, how do you put value into that? You know what I mean? And like, we've I only say that because with we just had this competition thing going on just recently, and a bunch of us auditioned, and some people get in, some people don't get in, but everyone's amazing. Yeah. So like, you can't place. It's so hard to place value into something that you're really proud of. Yeah. And the product that you create into the numbers. But in saying that, they're important because that's what kind of motivates you to keep going, if that makes sense.
It does. And it kind of gets me confused because great art can be made and not many people can see it. Yeah. But on an app like TikTok, the great art must be the ones that get everyone looking. Or, I mean... Or because I'm doing so many of these, I've got to be careful how I say that. Maybe I'll just speak on my own content, but if I'm making 100 of them, and one of them does great, there must be something about that one that's really valuable if it blows up. Yeah, because it's connecting on so many things whether it crosses countries, it's little language, so it means you're just looking at expression and people can connect with. But whatever it is, and I'm always trying to figure it out, the ones that kind of grow a bit more than the others. Like, why is that? Because it's not just a trend. Then, like, my things aren't really trends. They're things that could have happened to you 10 years ago. So it's like, we just, I don't know. Yeah. What is it? And I started to realize as well, like, at least with my content, like, it's not just humor. I thought it was, they'll connect with it because it's funny, but now it's just more relatability as well. It's like, oh, that reminds me of my childhood. That's nostalgia. That's memory unlocked, or whatever they want to call it. But everyone that says like that thing, like, this man's lived every life. It's weird because I say sometimes I come back and I go, and you've experienced it yourself. So
yeah, that's too. Why you enjoy it.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, maybe they can't do the acting, but really you've lived every life yourself. Like, if you understand this, then you've lived it too. And that's something I find quite powerful, the perspective, because normally the POV is two parties involved. And you've probably been,
I think it's honestly the accuracy of how, like, like the one that got me so good, bro. And it's only because my dad's a tradie as well. The builder asking to use the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Bro, I cracked up. Right, and I think that was the one where the comments were just like, well, like, this guy's lived every life. Because the accuracy of you being the builder. Right. It's like, oh, you've obviously done that before. Yeah. But obviously you haven't, because it's...
That was the other. I just saw it.
You just saw
that
it.
One, yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, that's where I find the genius in you is how well you're able to empathize with the situations. Man. And of course, I haven't seen you in your kind of other acting space, so I can only speak on what I've seen. But I think the TikTok show a lot of your like, it's like your potential. And you're only 20, so it's not even potential realized there. So who knows how great you're going to be, man. And once that Bob Marley biopic comes out, it's just going to be fire.
Right. I did have a question there. Yeah, though, like, because you connected so much with that builder one, what does the accent do for you in that? Because it's a British... Do you recognize a British tradie, or do you just see your dad mannerisms-wise? Why do you...
Well, my dad, like, it's not even that, bro. Like, the accent doesn't really... For me, it doesn't matter. I think it's just like an extra bit on top. Like, it's not necessarily my dad that I see. My dad's not a builder, he's a painter, but same kind of thing. And we've had builders over at my place, which I guess is the general... your audience will have had experience that. It's like having builders come over and or plumbers or whatever. And I know that my dad's definitely done that, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like that. The accent doesn't really...
Yeah, so that one's more of a scenario-based one. Yeah. Because, like... I did a couple, like maybe I actually did a lot of takes on that one, and I was changing the accent every couple takes, and I wonder how much that might affect it. You know, like not even in a negative way, but just more like, because I remember the first time I did it, a builder one, they loved it because they're like, that's the exact, and it's always a British guy, so they do like the, oh yeah mate, like a little bit of, you know, they're a bit more tough. But you could also do the one that's a little bit more up here, you know, just I'm a builder. I don't know. But I guess it's the scenario a lot of the time. So that's, But I've got that whole thing of I'm making them in New Zealand and I'm doing a British accent. So I'm hiding behind something because I kind of like that. I don't want to use my own voice. I don't need to. It's a challenge.
No, I think people like here might like that as well.
But they don't know. A lot of the people don't know. So I did one video where I was the dad, like, you know, giving your kid money to go give the busker. Yeah, give them $20. Yeah, here you go. Pulled out the note, and it's a Kiwi note, and everyone's like, wait, so he is from New Zealand? Hang on, wait. And I just said, no, I like collecting notes from across the world, pretending I'm still British or some shit. But there's that fascination.
Heads a little bit.
And I kind of like enjoy that. And then when everyone spots me, they do go, wait, what are you doing here, bro? I thought you were from like America. I was like, no.
Just chilling, bro.
Yeah. And so I kind of do think like one day I'll just like come out with all the Kiwi stuff and then just say, yeah, I'm repping this country because I want to be proud of it. But right now it's kind of fun because most of the audience is in the UK, and it's quite interesting to see how that works because I'm clearly tapping into their culture, but I didn't really grow up in it. So I don't know how that works. That is that universal language, though. Then we are all connecting to these things because we all really lived them. But
at a certain extent, you should maybe also not think about it. It's like it's just a wormhole. And you can just keep going and going and going and going. You just like got to leave it where it is, and people like it. People like it, and if they don't like it, then you have to, I guess, differentiate for yourself. It's like, well, am I happy with it, or are they giving me something constructive to work on so I can make it better? It's always a difficult one to go down.
One thing I have learned though is Americans don't get it. So like I can look at the stats and see which countries pull. Americans never go on my content, and I think and I've heard a little bit about people behind TikTok accounts explaining, you know, America are quite America. You know, they're like, yep, American centric, whatever. They, you know, they don't get, I mean, they don't want to hear a British accent. They'll go, oh no, that's not for me. That's actually what it is. Kiwis will relate to it because there are a lot of British immigrants in England are genuinely quite fascinated about the Kiwi accent. So it doesn't matter too much that way. But yeah, Americans.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So you do have to put on an American accent, and the ones where I've kind of put on an American accent, that's where it has blown up. So they do want the accent. They do. And a lot of people do relate. They see themselves, and I think Americans will definitely see themselves with an accent. And British people too. I think, because when I have done like an Australian one, like an accent in a TikTok with an Australian, the British stats just...
Really?
Yeah, because they want to hear like the guy they know from down the street.
Oh, you know? Hilarious.
So, whereas New Zealand, we're pretty happy. We're happy with taking the rest of the world. Same with Australia. We're happy with looking at American content and British content.
I guess it's because it's such a melting pot, I guess. But I guess like some places in America melt, like New York, for example, is a massive melting pot. But America is a bit like Mercoful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yo, that's interesting. Well, I want to say talk about this, and we won't go on for too much longer. But there's one TikTok that this is how I knew you were a real one, bro.
Right.
And this might be like some.
Oh my gosh.
It might be a bit what is it? Controversial, but I don't care because this guy's the goat.
Go for it.
But I think it was a graduation TikTok, and the guy who was graduating was Andrew Schultz.
Yes.
Big fan.
I know a bit of his stuff.
Oh,
but I'm not a huge fan actually.
Man, you gotta.
I threw it in because I had to think of a name, and I'd seen him like an hour before.
Oh, really? I thought you were. But hey, man, you used the name. No, you're a real one.
You big fan of Andrew Schultz?
Yeah.
Ricky, like, I'm more of a Ricky Gervais fan. That's where my comedy stands.
It's the same kind of like.
He does rip into it. Yeah, he rips it.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to go on the record and say, look, I don't agree with everything that he says. And at the end of the day, the jokes, relax.
Yeah.
Okay. But if Ricky Gervais and Andrew Schultz are like two people where it's just like, look, this is how I feel, and this is unapologetically how I feel. And I'm sorry if you don't like that, but like are you a big stand-up guy?
I recently did stand up for the first time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
I was talking yesterday. I'm always really impressed by people that can do stuff that I can't do. And,
well, I thought I couldn't do that.
Bro, well, that's the one, I love stand-up. I've loved it for ages, and I would have always loved to do it, but the fear of bombing is just too much for me, so I was like, can't really do it.
Yeah.
But I'm totally happy with that as well. I'm not really yearning, but bro, that's freaking cool, man. Where'd you go? Where'd you do it?
So it was
How
it was in Wellington. It was like a fringe bar, which is just a small little bar that does like Raw Meat Mondays, which is all your non-professional first timers or
open mic kind of thing.
Yeah, but I guess you did have to book in quite in advance, so it was. I mean, it was a full house, because of COVID. That meant that 30 people. So it's a small bar.
Yeah, it's like type 5 minutes or
5 minutes. Yeah, but
nice.
I had written about 8, and so they said we'll start flashing a torch at 5 minutes. I was like, no, I didn't know it was strictly 5. But I'd got to finish. I did the whole set, and it was so interesting, because I kind of want to be the Childish Gambino, just kind of dip my
Jamie
toes
Foxx kind of
dip my toes in all the things if I can, not just for the sake of it. So I won't pursue it if I don't have fun with it, or if I'm not adding any value to it overall. But here's what I feel about it: stand-up's funny because there isn't much community behind it, and so that was weird. Going backstage and being surrounded by people who are mid-40s or strange lady knitting, or there were just some random weird people backstage, and I was like, everyone's kind of in their own world, or they're not trying to pursue this or dreaming big about it. They're just more like, it's something I do on a Monday night. And so I was just a bit like, okay. And then I go on stage, and it's just my first time, so this, who knows, but the lights are so bright. I've fucking done a lot of theater, but this one was bright, and I couldn't, and it's stand up, and I couldn't see the crowd, so I felt like I was telling every joke to a black void, and I was like, are they? Because half of it is just seeing a smile. That means okay, the joke's fine, but that meant I was rushing everything. So my first joke was anyone Kanye West fan? Yeah, man. Kanye's doing some crazy shit at the moment, man. Oh God, isn't he? So I was backstage just before I came out, and so he's basically landed in Ukraine. He's fighting on. I'm kidding, and I joke about it, and I say I'm joking, probably, and I say Kanye's the only guy who you're like, did you hear what Kanye said tomorrow? And when I said that, no one laughed for about a second. I'm like, damn it, they don't get it. And then they laughed, but then I'd cut them off and said, "Oh, he's the only," and I just kept going, and I realized that's the whole game of you have to wait because they need time to understand the joke.
But you only get that in situ, I guess.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah. And
I think that's so freaking cool that you
and I thought I'd done a bad job, but I asked my sister to record it, and then I looked back at it and I was like, wow, this is actually not. I was so hyper in a zone. I've done a lot of theater, but that was your material, your jokes. It's not funny or it's funny. There's a lot of the stakes are so different. You can't blame it on anyone but yourself. It's shit if it's shit. It's good if it's good. And it's fun to be able to just find a rhythm and figure out that medium. And I'm curious to explore it, but the community thing feels a bit weird. How do you show up to a bar every night and just perform it and then go home, and kind of feels a bit empty if you're not sharing something with people a bit. So I'd like some lights on. I'd like to do more crowd work or something.
Yeah. With crowd work, Andrew Schultz is a massive.
Yeah, I know he's great at that. Yeah, but that takes so much bravery.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
It's really hard.
He's good at it because he just knows so much about other people's cultures,
and that's where you can argue he's not so disrespectful because
he understands
it all. That's the thing,
exactly. He doesn't assume there's this one joke that he has which is phenomenal, and he was this Punjabi guy sitting at the sitting front row at one of his shows, and he had that bracelet. There's the silver bracelet that he has on, and he started explaining that bracelet used to be a sheath because the Punjabi were a warrior class of people, fully accurate, and then his the punchline was now the meaning of the bracelet is developed, and now it rests on the steering wheel of an Uber.
Yeah,
and I was
yeah,
you know, I can't take it. The way I told it was shit, but
That's
it was the way he said it, and everyone died laughing, man. So
and I saw that on a TikTok and read the comment section, and they're like, even pronounce stuff right, or even did. So like,
yeah, that's the thing. Like you can take these risks if you know and understand. I guess. Yeah, man. I just so much respect for him, bro. Like I would love to see him live.
Yeah.
Speaking of, like, obviously that's one of my heroes. You said Ricky Gervais was one of yours. Like, how many? Do you have any other like?
I'm more so with stand-up just generally. I'm more interested in doing it than watching it, which sounds kind of weird. I definitely want to see more live stuff, but you know, I'd watch a lot on the laptop and stuff growing up. And the big person for me back in the day was Russell Peters.
Russell Peters, that was my first. Somebody gonna get hurt real bad. Classic, yeah.
Dig it and go.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's brilliant. And got to see him live. Actually, he did come to.
Yeah, I went to that as well.
Okay, we would have been. Yeah. They had the bodyguards. Watch out for the black guys. Like it said something stupid like that. But in recent years, I haven't found him funny, and I don't know what that is. I
think it's just the
maybe I know he's gonna. Okay, here we go. This guy in the front row. Like it's just I kind of figured out his rhythm. I don't know.
I think things have changed now. Like,
but it's not. I don't find it controversial.
No.
Okay,
yeah. I think it's because you're right. Like he's. I don't want to say he's not as funny because he's a legit like pioneer of comedy, and I just think the way audiences view stand-up now is different. Like I think we appreciate crowd work a lot more, and we appreciate storytelling instead of like bits. Like I want to say like to anyone listening that is like, oh, what the fuck does Sid know? Like he doesn't never done stand-up. It's like, yeah, I've never done it because I'm a fucking pussy, but I'm a massive fan of it, and I've like experienced it. Like that's why Dave Chappelle is such a talking point now, as controversial as he is. But he I think people like it at the moment where comedy is a tool for storytelling. There's like crowd work, which people like. It's as risky as it is. When you get it right, people love it. So, oh, you're cool, you're talking to me. And but from what I can see, like this, the reason why Dave Chappelle such a massive talking point, and why he gets the numbers that he does, and why arguably he's the GOAT, is because he's such a great storyteller, and to push the story further in a stand-up context, he uses comedy at certain points to just drive the story forward. Whereas like people, I guess like Russell Peters and let's say like maybe even Chris Rock as well, like they're so respected. And people, Chris Rock is doing his tour at the moment, and I'm sure he's selling out and all that stuff, like doing insane. Mad. There's no question that he's a genius at what he does and that he's funny. But I don't know if people are liking the comedy bits.
I'd agree with that. Like even when I just kind of scanned through Tambourine, his like Netflix one, I'm like, it's not. It's it's okay. Yeah. But I do believe like he's very clever, and like watching the Oscars thing, and just I watched the whole body language video about like the 3 people involved in the incident, and just people were saying, oh, it might be staged because Chris Rock leans forward, so he kind of already knew. But no, it was actually he leans forward because the stage lights are above him, but he's so professional that he never puts his hands on his head, and he just knows how to carry. And when I started hearing the body language of him just being up on stage, I'm like, oh, this is a professional in his craft. We just don't even know half of the work that goes into it. But I guess it's about if we find the joke funny or not. But I agree. It's like it's a chance to be a great storyteller. Like Hassan Minhaj is a great stand-up and political commentator in a comedic way, and just he tells incredible stories of his experience through comedy. And I guess maybe there's some controversy from the right, maybe, but like there was another lady, Hannah Gadsby, who kind of did a whole stand-up piece. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Netflix, but it kind of wasn't so much jokes. There was actually a moment where she said, I'm being serious. And then she started bringing out anger.
Yeah. So a lot of it now is like I said, they use comedy as like a tool for what they want to say, and I love that.
Yes, and I think it is pretty powerful. If you can get it right. If everyone comes in though thinking, "Please make me laugh" the whole time, you might be annoyed. But I think I'm here for a great story a lot of the time.
Exactly. Like it's something that I will keep bringing up Dave Chappelle, but something that he said is stand up is such a truthful art form, and it's not about the content. But if people are telling you how they feel, then that's what's important. You can agree with it or you cannot agree with it, but if you find it funny, then you find it funny, and if it's not funny, then it's not funny. But if they're telling you how, is why what's that comic's name? I don't know if you know him. What's his name?
What does he do? What does he look like?
Oh, he's passed away now, but
Okay.
Patrice O'Neill.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's one of Andrew Schultz's, inspirations.
Right.
And he was one to just unapologetically himself, and he'll just say the craziest shit.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, this is what I feel. You either like it or not. It was like, this is truthful, and people empathize with that, because I think you'll find like heaps of people that, might feel a certain way about something and actually agree, and but it's like not necessarily the way that everyone else is looking at it. So it's like fit with the status quo kind of thing, and these people make it okay for you to enjoy yourself, and I think that's what it is at the end of the day. And, if you're being a douchebag and like making fun of people, then but you want to make everyone laugh, I guess. But you're the stand-up man, not me. I can only say so much. I just like listening and laughing.
I think it makes me think of something though, like with the stand-up medium, which I'm a bit afraid of as people, or even filmmaking. I hope people don't get too much into like trauma porn, or have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, there's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a touchy one, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's like that thing of I went through something tragic, and then I'm going to show it all in, let's say, a short film, and just show you the violence of it. And we've seen that story a lot, and we're not denying that it's an issue that still needs to be solved. But is there another way to tell it that doesn't just feel like, oh, we're seeing someone get beaten, or we're seeing something graphic that just, and you can just feel it. Or same with racism stories, like just depending on how you do it. And I think that's the same with comedy. The night I did it, respect to everyone's trying to figure it out. Okay, everyone's trying to figure it out. So that's so cool. But there's a theme when, if you're a person of color, the first thing you got to do is, so I'm a person of color, and then kind of almost depending. I mean, you can be clever with how you tell the joke, but some of them are just backhanded. They stereotype themselves for the butt of the joke, and I'm like, don't do that to yourself, man. Like, like you can,
you're more than
that, but also it's actually already been done. And it's been done for the last couple of years now. So it's like, your race is valuable in everything, but like I just think about it generally. I'm like, how much should my art be attached to race? This is a question we talk about a lot at Toy and in spaces when there's people of color. And then I came to this conclusion when I had this guy Sean say it. Wherever you go, it's already in the art you do, because you just show up and your face is on it.
I couldn't agree with that
sort of thing
more, bro.
So. But I still think there's so many great stories and things you can tell and cultural experiences you can bring forward.
Just on that, bro, like, I wonder, like, for myself, I don't usually go out, and all my experiences that I have are, so the Fijian Indian guy does this, so the Fijian Indian guy hangs out with his friends. So everything's not viewed in that lens. There are some things that are, and that they're important. I've learned to kind of manage which things fit where, and of course there's always my identity, like you said. There'll always be within the things I do, but to be so graphic, I guess, with that lens on everything all the time, I'm not entirely convinced that's the best way to tell the stories, because you look at things, and like, people that are not the same race as you will have experienced the same kind of shit things in the exact same way that you have, regardless of if they're white, brown, black or not. You know what I mean?
Yep, for sure. Yeah. So I guess, like, these people who think it has to be about it all, because they're trying to find themselves, and that's even still me now, but, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And like, you came into the art form in a certain way, and it probably wasn't just because you were this color or whatever. Like,
exactly.
You came in because you enjoyed maybe, the comedy or whatever it was. So like, and so in my first set, I was like, I'm not going to make it about me being black. I could so have gone up there and been like, so just guess what I am. Like I could have done, you know, something stupid. Like, yeah, like where do I come from? But you know, I'm like, well, that will probably come eventually. I can always, but like, it's not a need.
There are some people that do that stuff masterfully, though. Like,
and that's when I'm like, well, brilliant. And you're twisting it on its head, and you're probably having a bigger thing you're saying. That's the great thing about stand-up. It's a bigger thing. It's not just, well, you know, there's a subtext behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, bro, I've had probably one of the best times.
I've loved this.
Yo, man, would you be keen to do another one day whenever you're back up again? I know you got to go back down at the end of the week, but I've had a great time. Like I said, I genuinely think you are a genius, and the things that you do are phenomenal. And I'm really looking forward to more short films, more screenplays, more acting stuff, whatever comes up. You've got so much potential, and if this is the great stuff that you're doing now, like who knows what it's going to be, 5-10 years from now. And yeah, man, I'm really stoked. Do you want to shout anything out? Shout anyone out, bro?
I just want to acknowledge you for letting me be on here and doing this and holding this space. It's an amazing space.
Cheers, man. I really
and
appreciate
also,
that.
I really want to chat to you further down the line about a little bit more about your singing, because that is something I'm fascinated about.
Of course, bro.
Like, we were just having the discussion the other day of like, people with these magnificent voices, and are you born with it, or is it something, like that whole question of, is this a rare gift?
Man.
And I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on all of that. But and if you ever have an opera show you're doing in Wellington or something, I want to see it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, like we'll talk after the thing.
But yeah, I just shout out Selwyn College, shout out my homie Shamal Korea, and all the people that have helped me and gotten me to this point, mum and dad as well, sister, and yeah, thank you for letting me on. I guess check me out on TikTok if you don't know.
Check this guy out on TikTok.
Plug myself.
I messaged so many of you guys being like, guess who I'm having on the podcast. Oh, by the way, guys, when I said on Instagram that this was I have a big announcement, this is the big announcement, by the way. This guy's insane. When I asked him to do the podcast and he said yes, I was like, I can't believe this.
Yeah, definitely.
Insane. Yeah, just so stoked. So stoked to have this convo with you, bro. And yeah, that's it from me, guys.
Cheers.
Righto. Have
Peace
a good one.
out.
Good night. Bye.